because that is where most people fail.
Yeah.
Getting the real estate is one thing, but it won't cash flow if you don't have a tenant. So you can have as many houses as you want. If they're all vacant, you're not going to be making any money unless you're waiting for them to appreciate and you're paying the mortgage payment all those years or whatever. So learning how to manage is critical to the success of your real estate portfolio. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen people make is they don't screen the tenant. The first guy that comes along and says, oh, I'm looking for a place to rent. And if you've done this enough times, you hear the red flags. I'm looking for a place to rent and I can pay 3 months down up front. And people are like, ooh, I'm going to get 3 months up front.
If it sounds too
and
good
trust
to
me,
be true,
that's going to be the last
too good
payment
to be true.
you get. Typically, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, in my experience. Screening the tenant, I think, is the first mistake that new property managers make. So you want to create a criteria, a checklist for yourself that you want to stick by no matter what. And you'll learn from your studying, from your reading, from your training, from your mentor, what those primary things are. And there's not very many. One is, do you make enough money? That part. Do you have a job? Are you making enough money? Have you ever been evicted?
Do you pay your bills?
Right. What's your credit score? So you have your own criteria. Everybody's different. You might want to look at things like income, evictions. Have you ever been evicted before? So you set these criteria because whatever criteria you set, you're going to use those same criteria on every tenant that you come across because you got to stay within fair housing and things like that. You don't want to treat one tenant one way and another one another way. So you set these parameters, you put them in writing, and you literally are going to check them off. You have this house for rent. You know how much you can rent it for because you've done your homework. Because you know now what the highest rent is in the area with, whatever the average rent is for this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. You've already done that homework, so you know what you're looking for. I can rent this out for $1,800. How much does that person need to make to be able to pay that rent? Right. So there's a formula for that, okay? For us, we do 40 times the rent. Some people say there's different formulas. So you take that and times 40, maybe it comes up to like $75,000 a year, whatever. I don't have the math in my head. You're going to keep that criteria down on a piece of paper, and you're going to check it. Okay, great. They make enough income. The credit score is what I want it to be. I want it to be 620 or whatever. You decide. I want a 620 credit score minimum. Boom. I have all the reports in front of me. I've pulled their credit. They have a 620 credit score. They make enough money. They've never been evicted before. I'm doing really good now. I am cooking with gas. I've talked to their prior landlord, because that's something else you're going to have on your checklist. And you have to take the time to do it. Call, hey, this is so-and-so from so-and-so. This person has applied to rent my house, and I understand they've rented from you before. Now, there's certain questions you can ask. There's certain questions you can't ask. But you can ask, are they current, things like that.
Would you rent to them again?
Would you rent to them again? That's usually a broad question that
But it gets a good answer.
I'm sure it does.
That's a good question.
You got to tell the story about the one person. Well, you can't say what he said.
No, I can't say what he said, but I had a guy, right? And of my many, 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 many years of doing this, he almost got by me. Very articulate, but something in my spirit was like, something's off here, and I can't figure out what it is. We're checking the boxes, right?
Really on the edge with the criteria.
Right,
Too.
we're checking the boxes. He wasn't meeting all the criteria because he was getting assistance in terms of his rent. That's a protected class, too. So you can't tell somebody they can't rent from you because they're on a program.
Right.
But you can screen them still, right? So the income part was sort of covered by this organization. His credit score was right there. But I hadn't checked his history. And so I said, you know what, let me do this. Everything else looks good, but I need to follow my own system and make sure I check all these boxes. Go to that last box. I called the last landlord. Hey, I got an application from so-and-so. I understand he used to rent from you. And I asked him the questions that I asked, and would you ever rent from him again? And he unloaded on me, all kinds of flowery words about him and his family and all the stuff he did and how he tore the house up. And, he was going on and on. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he's like, I'm sorry, I just got to tell you all this. And I was like, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So you see where I'm going. So you follow your list, and then you make your decision after that. So that's as simple as having a guideline. Yeah. So screening intents, to answer your question, I think is one of the first problems that we have.
Really over all the years that we've been, because we manage. Well, and the difference for us is we manage all of our rentals. And the difference for us is obviously, yes, we do own a real estate broker. So it's when we say we manage, we don't want to make everyone think that you could go out and get 100 properties and you manage it yourself. There might be someone that they can, because they might have some unique skill sets. Like they might be a realtor, or they might be in the industry. They could be we've met other family teams, real estate agent, contractor teams. Those teams usually, a lot of times, will do it, just like we do. And which makes perfect sense, because they're already real estate professionals. So, but when you don't have that team, one of the things that Jen's been able to do, even with the people that we've coached and helped, is make them make this make sense and get your criteria. Don't tell us you did it. Let us see it.
Let's see it.
We want to see what you did. What did you do? What did you do when for some of them, we've been with them for a while. So we'll say, well, I had 5 people call. So okay, tell us. We'll put them on a hot seat. Tell me exactly what you did. Tell us what you did when they called. Oh, I did this. Well, what did you check? Well, did you call their landlord? So, okay, well, right out the gate, you're not doing what you already been trained to do. So if you end up being one of the people that say you had a bad tenant, that's not the tenant's fault.
No,
You're not doing your work.
you're not helping the tenant help themselves.
because that tenant might be a good tenant for someone possibly, but maybe your place was too expensive and you weren't doing enough and you let them in there. Okay. And your criteria would have said they actually didn't qualify, but you were so desperate to take the first person or the second person. The other thing we do, and hey, it's just a policy of ours, we don't rent to family and friends. Now, I'm not saying that we're discriminating against our family and friends. We're saying we do have an option. When a family or friend calls, they don't call the traditional route. They'll call and say, hey, y'all got any places? Well, yes, we do. But, we would recommend
I want to see you at Thanksgiving, so no.
But we want to still be able to eat turkey and sweet potato pie and not be sitting over there looking at you, and I know you're behind on your rent 2 months. Okay, because you're just gonna mess up the whole family vibration thing for us to have a good time. So it's just,
and that's just our personal
It's just a personal thing that we've kind of adhered to over the years. That's worked for us. Maybe some other people have done that and they do it, but we just say that you can set things like that, which is nothing wrong with that, for you not wanting to involve personal deep relationships with family members and stuff.
And then I would say, get a couple of good books on property management, because it's all in there and it's not hard to follow. It'll just equip you with some tools and and some information that will be extremely helpful. And there's a lot of great books. I know Robert Kiyosaki's team. He has a team of professionals in the real estate space, from attorneys to property managers to accountants, who have all written books on this subject. And I can't remember his name, but one of his...
is it Wainwright or not Wainwright?
No, he's the tax guy. I can't remember, but he wrote a very good book on property management. So, read books.
Yeah.